आप जानते हैं मनमोहन देसाई जैसे फिल्म मेकर, मास एंटरटेनर, कमर्शियल सिनेमा, ब्लॉकबस्टर्स, उनको एक फिल्म का आइडिया कैसे आया? उन्होंने अखबार में पढ़ा कि एक शख्स ने 3 बच्चों के साथ वो आया गाड़ी में, पार्क में 3 बच्चों को छोड़कर वहां से वो चला गया। क्या उसकी हालत थी, क्यों, किसी को नहीं पता। Now, Manmohan Desai started thinking about it and thought of the story. What if these 3 children are adopted by 3 different families? And that is how the film was born. There's another trigger. वो कहीं बैठे खाना खा रहे थे होटल में। शेफ जो है, जैसे होता है ना, रोटी ऐसे उछालते हैं जब बना रहे होते हैं, उन्होंने वो उसको उछालते हुए देखा। तब उनको एक आइडिया स्ट्राइक किया कि मैं एक फिल्म बनाना चाहता हूँ जिसका टाइटल होगा रोटी। रोटी पर बहुत ही बेसिक एक चीज है रोटी। दैट वाज हिज ट्रिगर. What we know is that on certain days you will wake up and everything seems to make sense. It all falls into place. The characters, the arcs, the flow. And that is when you are in a state of flow. So when you get that flow, you should sit and write it all out, preferably on cards. If you can separate the scenes, put a scene on each card and lay it all out. You can see the flow very clearly. It is all out of your mind, it is all out there. You can look at it scene by scene and look for gaps, look for the high points. So, what happens is you have the whole map, you have the temperature of the film sort of as it flows. And then you can even think of rearranging. You may want to bring this scene, which is down the line, right here in the beginning, and push the whole narrative away. In my debut feature film, Mohandas, which is there on YouTube, it's a story about this man whose identity has been stolen, and somebody else is living there as Mohandas.
गाड़ दो, जिंदा गाड़ दो, मगर मेरी पहचान नहीं मिटा सकते, मैं ही मोहनदास रहूंगा।
So in the script, this scene when Mohandas goes there to the coal mines and finds that he's unwanted. There is already a Mohandas there who's a fraud. And this genuine Mohandas is going to get kicked out. And he rages about it. It came down the line. And then we realized that perhaps we should bring it right at the beginning. I made it, in fact, a title sequence. Right at the beginning, the audience doesn't have a clue. But then it's a very strong scene. It just grabs you. And you wonder why? What is happening? What is going on? And so you're already pulled into the film. Instead of a slow burn, you start with a high heat and then do the slow burn leading up to it. Especially nowadays, with non-linear storytelling, आपकी कहानी जो है एक के बाद एक घटनाक्रम से नहीं जाती है. आप बदल सकते हो. आपकी ऑडियंस अभी सोफिस्टिकेटेड है. Especially detective film, mystery films. There are many such genres, where इस तरह की unfolding ज़्यादा attractive होती है, engaging होती है. We're not giving you any rules. We are not telling you that this should happen and that should happen and this is the structure of your story. It is important to let your unconscious mind do the work. And that is what the flow is all about. When you have absorbed everything about the story, you have immersed yourself in that world and let it affect you, let it go inside you, and then it is your unconscious mind which does the work, and that is what creates the flow. And that has a certain beauty, power, lucidity which works. And this is not only for filmmakers, this is true of artists, for poets, composers, writers. They all work when they are in this zone. A.R. Rahman, he composes late at night because that is when he can be in that state. A poet writes first thing in the morning on waking up, and the song becomes a beautiful song that people love to hear. So, the same thing that I'm saying applies to story. When you're working on a story, immerse yourself in that world and let your unconscious mind guide you towards the story. And then, in the second sense of flow, which is a more analytical, objective understanding of flow, is when you arrange it all on a table, on a wall, and look at it carefully. And then this is a simpler understanding of flow where you see the flow of scenes from one to the other. How does it engage? How does it hold? So that is the other way to look at flow. And when you put the whole film together, when you have acknowledged this state of mind and respected it and created a work, there will be a certain flow to the film itself. That's the third meaning of flow. The film will have a certain flow, and the audience will be pulled into that. So, when you have reached that point where you think you have the complete story, just a first draft maybe, but you think that it's complete now, I would suggest you should step out now. Call a friend, a writer, a colleague, somebody you trust who will listen to your story. Go to a coffee shop or a tea stall, sit there and narrate your story and see what happens. Is there some magic in your narration? You will come to know. You will come to know whether the story is affecting another person. And once more, you will get into the state of flow. As you narrate, you will realize that you are entering into a state of flow. And this will happen if you don't take any support. Don't take your laptop, your mobile, your paper notes, nothing. You just have to sit there with a cup of chai and you have to tell the story. You should be able to tell the story. That will help you get into flow. And you'll come back with some valuable feedback, not only from your friend, but yourself. You'll come to know where there are problems, where it is not working, and which are the good parts. You'll yourself come to know. And you're ready to go into the next version. आपको अपने आप से कनेक्शन बनाना है, आपको अपने सब्जेक्ट से कनेक्शन बनाना है. आपको ये चीज़ समझना है कि फॉर्मूला कुछ नहीं होता है.